Good evening, this is Nick Inman from VolumeProfileTrader.com on Monday, January 30th, and going to look at the S&P and a few other names and commodities just to see what's going on in the market. And looking at today, the day started out pretty ugly. Market gapped down lower and continued lower. We made a low around 1296, which wasn't any significant volume level, but we bounced from those levels and moved up. Now we're right around the point of control for January and the last 30 days. So expect a move, one way or the other soon, and it's probably going to be a profitable one, whether it's, to continue to sell this down to the 1288 level or so, maybe down to 1275. One of those two volume levels would get hit to the downside. And as far as the upside, the trend would continue. Obviously, we would test this 1325 to 1330 level. And if we get through that, then there should be more buying that comes into the market. So this still looks okay. We're still at that 1308 area that we've talked about. We dipped below that. It was profitable for a trade this morning, but the buyers reversed it, and a lot of things, still were working today, but it definitely was not the whole market. So, looking at commodities first, gold continues to do fairly well. Looking at, I changed the profiles, looking at weekly profiles and what's been going on this week so far. Last week we created a high volume area, 1720 to 1720. Generally speaking, that was your downside. You can see that was the bottom of this huge high volume here. Here's barely any volume relative to these two levels right here. So this was definitely the low, and the high, you could say, was either 1728 or maybe up to 1730. It doesn't matter. We're above those levels. So as long as we stay above those levels, this thing could push higher back up towards 1740, 1750. So gold, the uptrend definitely remains. And until we start breaking below that, you want to be a buyer on weakness in gold. I'm trying to do silver. Silver looks kind of funny because it looks just like gold. Bottom of the high volume area, 33.25 or so. We pierced that pretty significantly today in silver, but we recovered. We basically tested the lows back from last Thursday, and so holding those levels, those are fine. But like gold, if we start moving higher, great. We're probably going to go above $34 on silver. If not, we're probably going to test 32 again on the downside. Apple, now I'm going to go back to the monthly charts. Apple continues its quest higher, and I actually bought more today, and I had about a third of a position before earnings. I sold most of it into earnings, and after the great earnings announcement, waited for a couple of days for this to work out, and then I realized, the bottom of this range is holding, so it's a cheap shot. So you went for it, got paid off so far today. I got it around 45 or so, 445. So it's a good trade so far, and I own it from a much lower level, so it was pretty easy to add on to the position. MasterCard, be aware of what's going on here. We have point of control for the month of January at the bottom of the range. This is a long, and we're going back up to 370, so you still have $22 or so left in this trade. Just realize that your stop is probably, you could say under these recent lows, about 345, $7 of risk, or if you want to be safer, back down below these lows, which is a little more significant. You can have half and half of your stop below these current lows, half below these actual swing lows, but I'm pretty sure these January lows will hold for a move up to 370. Walgreens, continue to wait to see if this one's going to break out. Every time it looks like it is, it doesn't. As long as we make some type of higher low, preferably off this January point of control, and then a new high. If not, may scale down on the position and wait to see if we actually get an entry. But I still like this for a potential move to the upside. Alpha Natural Resources down 2.5% today. This was an opportunity to start scaling in for a cheap shot. If this thing does continue higher, which it could, it may not. You'd much rather get it on a day where it was down 3% at one point, rather than buying it on a day it's up 6%, which was Friday. So, this may not work out, but it looks good, and the reason why is because 4 of the last 5 months, the point of control has finished at the bottom and the end of the range. Usually that means a buying opportunity, and we'll wait to see. But, say it clears this resistance, then you should be clear, especially if it goes above 23, which were the January highs so far. Alright, ARM holding, going to the 52-week chart of this. This looks poised for a move higher. What I'm looking at is these last 2 days, they show you that there's still buying support. So you can, theoretically, your risk is down, where your stop should be is down at these levels, but you can also place a stop basically under these 3 last days, considering them balance days. We traded higher and had balance for 4 straight days, had finished strong the last 2, so you can place a stop under perhaps around like 27.50, and that would put you clear below these last 3 days. Therefore, if it does drop lower, then perhaps you have a little more downside to get involved. But this really looks interesting. I'm not sure when earnings are. I'm going to have to check that, but it's just an idea. Ford bought some on the weakness on Friday, and I still think this works. If you can get this around $11.50, $11, that's golden, and you definitely want to pick up Ford at those levels. Dell continues to work. Look at all of the positive days you had in Dell in a row, and it just shows you one negative day out of a month's worth of trading. Since 2, I guess, if you consider the first day, but the entire month of January has been positive for Dell, and it looks like it wants to go higher. It's its highest closing price the entire month, so I like it. Alright, Comstock Resources. This is a speculative play, but it looks like it may have bottomed, formed a little bit of a base the past week or so. And what I'm looking at is, if we get, no, let's not, we definitely have some resistance to go through. And, we don't want to chase into it, and I'm going to show it on this chart. There's definitely some resistance, and we don't want to chase into it, but we're looking at a potential for Comstock to make an easy run up to $15 or so. There really isn't much volume from, if you clear these recent swing highs, there really isn't much volume to stop this thing from going to go around 1525 to 1550 is where you would look to take profits. Maybe just above 15, which is the value area low for December and the last 90 days. But you're looking for about $1.25, maybe $1.50 on a $13 stock. That's a pretty good move, and I would just keep your stop somewhere. It's going to be somewhere sub 13. So theoretically, if you bought now, you would have your stop just below, almost where you bought. But this trade isn't ready yet, but it's a potential, and it's one you want to keep on your radar. Basic Energy, it's almost a similar situation. If I show the yearly chart, we're definitely forming a base, and we've consistently made lows around this $16 level or so. And the highs are definitely around $22. So right here, you're risking, I would keep a stop under these most recent lows, right around $16.50, which is almost $2 worth of risk, which is a decent amount. But there could be a play up to 22, and I think you can scale into this very lightly and expect a move up to 22, maybe even up to 26, which is the value area high for the year. But I wouldn't be rushing into this building a full position at $18.35. Give this, a week or so from now, you may be able to get it still sub, $18.35. However, this thing could also go straight up to $22. So maybe you want to be involved, but with a light position. Monsanto, new highs today. Keep riding it. I would keep your stop under these recent lows that Monsanto is based off of, and enjoy the ride higher. I hope a lot of people are long this name, because we're covering it at $70, now up to $82. Polaris Industries, this looks like it, maybe a little flag pattern here, and you look for some type of breakout above this. However, it's just consolidating, and let it work. This is going higher. Sure, there's the potential for a double top, and then it rolls over and goes to $40. Of course, there's that potential, but I like the fact that we're making higher lows. We bounced nicely off the point of control for the year, right off these levels, and went straight back to the top of the channel. It shows me that there's strength, and it shows me that on weakness, I should say the better trade is to be a buyer on weakness. Under Armour, do not take this off your radar. This looks poised, and we continue to consolidate right above this point of control for the year. As long as we continue to make higher lows and really start, try to make a move higher sooner rather than later, up to $83 or so, that's good news. And Under Armour will probably, go test 90, even $100. But this could have been this day right here on 126, where earnings were announced. That could have been a big, shakeout, and this thing's ready to move higher. So just be aware of that. IBM, if you're long this, stay long. This is going higher, and since they crushed earnings, it's closing high since they crushed them. So this looks good. It's tough to buy it now if you aren't long this, but nevertheless, if you really want to be involved, buy a very small position. EMC, $27. That's your target, and this is strong. You should be long from $22 or so, and just enjoy the $4 profit that you have. So, anyways, there's not really much to talk about. Let the market work this out, and it's going to take maybe a week or two to consolidate. I doubt it continues to move higher, but it could. But expect less vertical development as far as new highs, and expect more horizontal development in a, call it 30-point S&P range. That's what I would expect. Maybe a little more to 50 points. But any weakness, you should be looking to be a buyer, at least scaling into something, because overall this market should, I'm going to bring it up, should continue to make a run higher over the course of the beginning of this year. So anyways, I will talk to you tomorrow.